St. Francis of Assisi and his first disciples wore habits with the color of light blue-gray, almost like blue jeans. But in time, Franciscans changed their habit color to this particular brown color that we have here. And this is why the largest group of Franciscans are called Capuchins, because their habit color looks exactly like that most wonderful Italian drink, cappuccino. The deacon Francis of Assisi once took a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. He visited Jerusalem, where Jesus died and rose, and he also visited Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. Francis returned to Italy exactly on Christmas, so he wanted to recreate the scene for some of his friends. St. Francis of Assisi made the very first Christmas nativity scene. It wasn't like the manger scenes we have today with sheep and cattle and horses and wise men, angels, and a star. It was only a crib and a baby. By giving total focus on the baby Jesus, no doubt this first nativity scene evoked prayer. St. Francis of Assisi liked to meditate upon the mystery of the Incarnation and the Nativity of Jesus Christ because it reminded him of two things, of how God made himself small and how he made himself poor. St. Francis was a really short man. He wasn't even 5 feet tall. Yet, as small as St. Francis of Assisi was, God, in the person of Jesus Christ, made himself even smaller. Imagine, the God of the universe, in all of his greatness and grandeur, would make himself an embryo in the womb of Mary. Imagine the humility required for God to allow himself to be a tiny, vulnerable baby lying in a manger. And that baby lying in a manger was not only small, he was absolutely poor. He had nothing. He who created the entire material universe divested himself of it all. To do like St. Francis and remember how Jesus allowed himself to be made small and poor, we here at Bishop Gorman have begun to pray the Angelus every day during our respective lunch periods. The repetition of the Hail Mary along with the 4 verses and responses of the Angelus reminds us of that moment when Jesus became incarnate in the womb of the Blessed Virgin Mary. That moment when Mary laid baby Jesus asleep on the hay. That moment when the Word became flesh and dwelt among us as someone small and poor. Ultimately, the frequent recitation of the Angelus leads us to a greater reverence of Jesus in the Eucharist. In the Eucharist, on the altar, Jesus becomes small and poor. After the priest repeats the words of Jesus, the Word of God, Jesus Christ becomes flesh and dwells among us under the appearance of a small, poor piece of bread. But it is Him who is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Indeed, every holy sacrifice of the Mass is like the Annunciation, is like Christmas. For at every holy Mass, just like at the Annunciation at Christmas, the Word becomes flesh and dwells among us. Every day during our lunch period, pray the Angelus with intensity. Every time we pray the Angelus, call to mind the 2 things that captivated St. Francis the most: God's smallness and his poverty, so that at every Holy Mass we might grow in an understanding, appreciation, and awe of what it means to pray. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us.